Hello, welcome to this live broadcast on the Daring Mindset. Now, I'm hoping that I'm able to stream simultaneously on LinkedIn and Facebook, and with any luck, your comments on both platforms should all come through, and I should be able to see them all in my stream here. Now, unfortunately, my software doesn't work great in letting me know who's here, so if you're here, just say hello, let me know, and feel free to contribute to the conversation, and I can highlight your comments up on the screen. So this week we're talking about the 6 steps to a daring mindset, and I'll do a brief recap. So in previous lives, I've talked about the whole kind of daring mindset framework and the power of it in helping us to really dream up ambitious goals and meaningful goals for us, and then to actually be able to achieve them. Because so often, and if you're anything like me, you sort of come up with ideas and visions and get really excited, but then kind of don't really do anything about it. Lots of doubts and fears come in, and we end up sort of going back to our comfort zone. So in that live, and I say they're all kind of featured on my profile, so please go and check them out. I talked about how the daring mindset helps us to overcome those doubts, and it's kind of both a guided process and a powerful state of being that helps us move through and actually create growth, create our dreams, and everything we want to achieve. So that's kind of the framework and the daring mindset. I talked last week about the doubting mindset, and I'm just going to recap that in a little bit more detail because it's really relevant to what we're talking about today. So in the doubting mindset, what happens is, we'll be in our comfort zone quite happily, or not so happily, in our comfort zone. And we will get an idea or a vision, a wish, a dream, something that comes up that we want to do, or we really want to do it. We're really enthusiastic about it. But what happens is that kind of kicks off a whole series of processes in our brain, of thoughts and beliefs and behavior, driving behaviors. And the reason for that is within our subconscious. So when we think of doing something new, something different, our brains sort of regard that as change. And our kind of, through evolution, our kind of reptilian brains decide that, change equals the unknown and the unknown equals dangerous. So our subconscious will do all in its power to bring us back into our comfort zone. So in the doubting mindset, we looked at kind of what's going on, what are those beliefs? What are we telling ourselves? What are those thoughts? What is going on that perhaps is driving our behaviors and taking us back into our comfort zone? So the way I describe it almost is that doubting mindset is our starting point. It's kind of point A. And it's our daring mindset is our end point. It's where we want to get to. And I guess that's kind of point B. But what then kind of created for me was a challenge, really, about, well, how do we get there? Because the way I figure it, if it was that easy, we would all be doing it. We would all be in our daring mindsets. We would be, achieving our goals, realizing our potential, living our best lives. And, probably that's not the case for a lot of people. So I sat down to think about, okay, how can we get there? What process, what do we need to look at to be able to reach our daring mindset? I'm just going to say, as I'm talking, if you're here, please just write a comment, say hello, let me know you're here, because my software isn't very good at telling me when people are here. So yeah, do give us a shout out and feel free to ask any questions at any time. So talking about, again, how do we overcome the doubting mindset and get to our daring mindset? And it was actually during a meditation session where the 6F framework just kind of popped into my head, pretty much ready-made. And I had a look at it and sort of looked at it in more detail and put some padding around it. But actually, it worked as a framework. So the way, the process that we want to take to get to our daring mindset is really to look both at the goals and the ambition and all of where we want to get to, and also to work on the mindset issues that come up. So I've done a lot of coaching, I've done a lot of mindset journey, and I've done sort of mindset coaching programs, which have been great. But at the end, I've almost felt, and then what? What next? And I've also done goal-based coaching. So I've been coached on goals. But actually quite a lot of the time there, I'm sort of thinking, but what about the mindset? So the power of this framework is that it brings the two together, intimately entwines the two. So the way that works is that we look at mindset, we look at goal, we look at mindset, goal, mindset, and goal. Because what I found, and this is partly what I've done myself, is sort of going all through the mindset. It can be challenging. It is a challenging journey because we've sort of formed these beliefs and behaviors for a reason. And sort of to avoid this becoming a bit of a parade of pain, what I then wanted to do was make sure that at each stage we're connected to the positive about why we're doing this. And in that way, all of the mindset work is then incredibly tied in and relevant to where we want to be. So to get started, so the 6F Daring Accelerator. In the first F, we want to get friendly and familiar with our fears. So what does that mean? Now, if you're like me, like a lot of people, we spend an enormous amount of energy trying to avoid our fears, trying to kind of get away from our fears and resist them and keep them pushed down because we don't want, their fears. We don't want to have to interact with them. But the difficulty with that is, although we think we're avoiding having to think about them and feel them, actually we are, because they're there, they're under the surface, they're bubbling away, and we kind of can't do anything about it, even though they're driving our behaviors and our beliefs and our thoughts. So what we do in this program, in a sort of guided process, is we just turn around, we face our fears, we get friendly with them, because they're just trying to keep us safe. If we think about them in that way, they're just trying to keep us safe, keep us away from that unknown, that danger. And so when we do that, when we just kind of acknowledge that they're sort of trying to help, even if they're not really, we can then start to just look at them, see what it is we're saying, see what we're feeling, see what is behind all of that. And in that way, we can either sort of find out actually what is the fear and then figure out what to do about it. How can I reduce that fear? Or we can find quite often that it's something that's maybe from our past and isn't relevant now. So we can let that fear go. Because the way our brains work and our kind of programs work is that most of our understanding of the world, of ourselves, and of how we fit into the world is a lot of that programming is laid down when we were sort of before the age of 7. So if you think about it, actually, we've kind of got, this state-of-the-art adult human being, whatever age we are, running the operating system of a 5-year-old. So by kind of getting friendly and familiar with our fears, it enables us to kind of, just take back the wheel from that 5-year-old, and it means we can then constructively move forwards. And I think hopefully we've got a few people here. So again, just please drop a note in the chat to say hello. My software doesn't always tell me when people are here. So, if you've got any questions or any thoughts, please just drop them in the chat. So we've got familiar and friendly with our fears, which hopefully has freed up a lot of that energy that we've been using to sort of not face our fears. And that enables us then to get fanatical and focused about our dreams and our goals. And, when I say fanatical, I mean it's getting really, really, really embedded in what it is we want and why, what it will give us. So in that way, we can start to really embody, what it is we want and where we want to get to. And also, it then becomes familiar to us. The more we think about it, the more it becomes familiar, and hopefully the more our subconscious is on board. And it can help to get, to be really ambitious. And that's part of the point of the Daring Mindset coaching program, is to step into a place, where you're thinking much bigger than you ever have before. And certainly with me and clients I've worked with, they are thinking, almost going for things that perhaps previously never thought possible. And that's the aim, is take our dream and double it, see what happens. Because that's, that is then enabling us to really step into that potential and really create, if we're looking perhaps to create a certain income or we want to make more time, it's to really, really embody what that will then give us. So perhaps we can think about the life we'll have if we have more money, the travel, the time we can have, the opportunities we can give ourselves, our families, and our friends, or time. If my goal is to have more time, what will that give me? That's important to me. So we get fanatical and focused about our dreams and get really excited about them, because in that way, we make them more important to us than our fears. And what we focus on and what we believe in, we create. So if we're focusing on fears and we're believing that the world is fearful, then that's what we'll have, is fear. If we're focused, really focused on our dreams and fanatical about our goals, that is what we will create. We will create positive actions towards them. We'll create a belief that we can have them. And that is such a powerful state of being. So by putting ourselves in that space of really big ambition, aspiration, innovation, thinking about, what we will be doing differently, what that can then do is throw up more mindset issues. And so that's the reason we then start looking at perhaps why we've been holding ourselves back in the past. So again, if these are things that are important to us and we want, why have we not been able to achieve them yet? How have we been holding ourselves back? And in doing that, part of that is actually forgiveness. And what I found in my own personal mindset journey of over 5 years, forgiveness, hi Kirsty, in my journey of 5 years, forgiveness has been probably the most powerful mindset technique I've used. So in this, we look at basically all the things we're carrying around with us, all those bricks, all that baggage we're carrying around from our past. And, in forgiveness, we can start to let that go. And just let go all the things that are holding us back. So in part, we might forgive other people, we might forgive things that have happened. And it's an important process, but also think about, we're not necessarily condoning things that have happened to us in the past, particularly where things were wrong, that perhaps have happened to us. So it's not saying that actually that was right. It's more taking a decision as to whether we want to carry that around with us anymore. Is it taking us to where we want to be, or is it holding us back? And so if we can just forgive and let go of those things, actually, they no longer have power over us. They no longer have control over us. And they're no longer stopping us actually achieving our full potential. The other side of forgiveness is forgiving ourselves. And that can be for all sorts of reasons. One might be forgiving ourselves for, maybe not taking a stand, or for staying in a job or relationship which wasn't right for us. We can forgive ourselves for perhaps not having achieved our goals up till now. But the more we can do that, the deeper we can go, the more we just leave all that stuff behind and can step forwards with a much lighter, a lighter heart, a lighter step. And we don't have to hold ourselves back anymore. And again, just saying, if anybody's here, my software doesn't always tell me when people are here. So it'd be great for people to say hello, drop a note in the chat, and, any thoughts, any questions that come up, just drop them in the chat and we'll look at them. So we've forgiven ourselves, we've forgiven others, and we're now moving forwards in a really positive way, which takes us to the next F in the process, which is creating fun and fulfillment. And this is so important because it's often the thing that we miss out. When we're perhaps working towards our goals or our dreams, I've recently, I started a new business over the last year. It can be really easy to forget the fun. We sort of leave it behind a little bit. And the way I look at it, and this is part of me being the human being coach, is in all of our roles. So if you think about, the wheel of life, whatever we want to call it, the wheel of priorities, we have all different sort of roles and priorities and responsibilities. That might be work, family, children, parents, relationships, other things we do outside. Hi, Hala. I hope I've pronounced your name right. Great to have you here. So, yes, in all of our roles, all of the things we do, we often forget the human being who sits in the middle. So that kind of living, breathing, squishy human being. Kirsty, great, yes. I'm just going to show that comment up on the screen, hopefully. So do you think that forgiving benefits the forgiver more than the forgiven? Yes, I absolutely do. Because in many cases, the person who we are forgiving has no idea that we're forgiving them, probably no idea that we're still dragging around all this pain. And there's a very good saying that I will paraphrase, I'm not sure if I've got it quite right, that sort of resentment is like drinking poison and expecting our enemy to die. We're holding the poison inside us. So absolutely, we forgive in order to set ourselves free. Now, there may be the case that we actually in person forgive somebody, which could be part of this process. But actually, the sort of part of the aim is to set ourselves free. So thank you, Kirsty, for that comment there. So coming back to the fun and fulfillment that we're now able to do because we have forgiven and let those things go. So it's really important that as we're looking at our dreams, as we're going towards our goals, that we're doing it from a place of, how is this fulfilling for me? How can I build fun and abundance into there? And, I'm in the very fortunate position at the moment of I'm creating my new business. I've created it. I'm creating sort of my life around it. And so part of my wider vision is to create an abundant life in all its forms. So as we're thinking about fun, is making sure we're taking time for ourselves, our free time, and having some really good downtime and having some fun and doing fulfilling things there, like hobbies or spending time with loved ones, and also building fun into whatever it is we're doing, into our lives, into our jobs, our businesses. Because in that way, again, we're giving ourselves a reason to want to do it. And the more it's aligned with our values and our purpose, the more we're just going to want to do it. We're going to be pulled towards our goals rather than sort of having to kind of climb our way there. So we've now got, we're having fun, we're fulfilled, we're moving purposefully towards our sort of our daring mindset and our goals. And to really move forwards, we have to get familiar. We have to be flexible in failure. So we're going to have to try new things, take actions, do things in ways we've never done before, which can be terrifying. And a lot of what holds us back is that fear of failure. And failure, that fear is so nuanced. It has so many different arms to it that it can really, that is why it's so pernicious in holding us back. Because we can fear failure. We might fear it because of, what will other people think? We might fear it because of, humiliation or, sort of what people will say about us. But we can also kind of embody that failure and make it about us. We are a failure if we fail. And those things combined can pretty much make us terrified of doing anything in case we fail, in case we are a failure. So that then stops us even trying, which actually is even more damaging, because we then sort of think, oh, I'm such a failure because I never even try and achieve my goals. I have these ideas and I'm a failure because I don't even try. So that is where we really need to kind of just step into, again, where we're trying to get to and why. And a big stepping point for me, a big epiphany for me, was when I kind of connected back to my scientific training. So I spent 7 years at university, being a scientist and doing research. And so as soon as I thought about failure, I thought, well, what if I just rebadge it as experimentation? So whenever I do anything, it's an experiment. And I'm a science geek. I love experimenting. So that shifted something in my brain, because, I've had quite a few experiments that didn't work, quite a few. And actually what you get out of them is data, it's information. Whatever happens, whether an experiment goes exactly as you want it to, whether it crashes and burns, or whether actually, probably the good one is when you get some really unexpected and interesting outcomes. All of that is information, all of that is learning. And you experiment, you take the results of that experiment, and then you adjust and try again. And that takes that stigma out of it. It takes the failure out of it, basically. Hala, that's a really good question. So can failure be due to someone holding you back? Potentially. And I think it's a really nuanced question, actually, because when we think about it, can somebody hold us back? And partly in this program and one of my other programs, we talk about each person is sort of 100% responsible for their own part in any circumstance. So is somebody holding us back, or are we allowing somebody to hold us back? Now, I appreciate we may be in a really difficult situation, and it may be not necessarily that easy to, escape or find other ways. And that's partly what the daring mindset is about. I have been in situations where I have felt trapped and held back. And it was only when I sort of came out of those situations that I realized, okay, I can choose. So I think that's a really nuanced one, and that's one to look at is, how am I engaged in being held back, if that makes sense. And again, this isn't victim blaming. This is simply what is in my power to do to stop somebody holding me back. So it's a really interesting question, and probably not one I can necessarily answer straight away because it's so nuanced. So that's sort of that failure. And I guess with that situation, Hala, is to think about, okay, what can I try? Experiment. How can I experiment to perhaps get free of being held back? So hopefully, once we've been through this process, let's see. Oh yeah, my question. Yeah, thanks, Al. My question is due to I see some teenagers who are held back by their parents. Absolutely, and this is where the challenge is in terms of our experiences in our childhood massively drive how we act in adults, because our understanding of the world, our understanding of ourselves is pretty much laid down by the age we're 7, and the influences continue obviously while we're at home. And it can be really tricky because, and in that situation, what you may want to do is work with both the parents, because what they're trying to do almost is make the teenager in their own image, and we can never control another person. What they're trying to do is sort of make the teenager into what they want to be, rather than actually allowing that teenager to fulfill their potential. And I think the more we can encourage, in schools, in everything we do, encourage teenagers to be thinking for themselves and having agency, that they can then they then have choices. So they don't necessarily have to do what their parents are telling them to do. But I appreciate there are so many cultural differences. There's a lot of gender differences. There's so many nuances in this that it's a difficult one to answer in a sort of 30-minute live. But yeah, all of these things are so important in thinking about how we self-actualize and all the steps we need to go to, and all of that baggage we have potentially from when this has happened to us. So when we get to that point of where we've got familiar and friendly with our fears, we're fanatical and really focused on achieving our dreams and our goals, we're forgiving ourselves and others, we're creating fun and fulfillment in our lives, we're being flexible in failure, all of that comes together to enable us to take a giant leap of faith into our future. Now, that may be, the faith comes in many ways. So it's faith in ourselves. It can be faith in others. It can be a religious faith. But ultimately, it is that, faith is that jumping into the unknown, but having that trust that it's going to be all right. You've got this, that we have, I have the strength, the experience, the courage, the determination, the power, the passion to be okay. I have the resilience if things go wrong, because we've established that there is no such thing as failure. There's only learning. So we can take that leap of faith, and because we've kind of let go of that, tether that's holding us to the ground, is keeping us landlocked, we can take that leap. And actually, that can enable us to achieve things greater than we ever thought possible. I mean, just, we can astound ourselves with what we can do if we just leap into our own power and our own trust. So that is basically the elements of the Daring Mindset program. And the way I outlined it, it's very much a cyclical process. Because initially I was trying to sort of write it out in a very linear way. It was a list that we did, and it wasn't working. And then as soon as actually it was a client of mine that I was working with sort of described it as a cycle. And it was like, yes, that's what it is. Because once we take that leap of faith, we're kind of leaping into the unknown again, which sort of starts the whole process over again. So, but we're doing it at a new level. We're doing it at a higher level. And we can just keep cycling that process. And you can learn to do this in the moment. And I've done this. And again, I've had clients sort of message me back and say, oh, here's how I used the 6 Fs in the moment. And you can do it. So what I do now, if I connect with what I'm feeling, what is it? And I then ask myself, is it fear? Okay, what am I afraid of? What am I fearing? I connect with, okay, why am I doing this? What's the purpose? Why am I doing this thing that is making me fearful? I forgive if I need to forgive. I think about how this is creating fun and fulfillment. I'm flexible in terms of, actually, like I say, I can't fail if I try. And that enables me to take that leap of faith. And you can do that in, a minute, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, it doesn't matter. But the more you practice it, the more it takes you forwards. Now, this is the element of what I do in the Daring Mindset program. And I actually have got spaces available in my one-to-one program at the moment. So, do please message me, get in touch if actually you're really keen now, having heard this, to step into your future. I also have a Daring Mindset weekly newsletter, and I'm just going to put this on the screen. I will put the link also in the chat after this session is finished, so you can register. So I have a Daring Mindset e-newsletter every week, and this includes all sorts of sort of exclusive Daring Mindset content, and sort of early access to programs, and also subscriber-only discounts. And with that, you can also download your free Daring Mindset ebook, which contains within it a guided 6 F practice. So I'm going to leave that link there, but I will drop the link into the chat after the video is finished. And what I want to say is thank you to everybody who's joined. Thank you for people who've commented, and I know it's been a great discussion. And I will be back exactly the same time next week, where I'll be talking perhaps in more detail about how the Daring Mindset could change your life, and partly from my own story. So have a fantastic week, have a daring week. Do please subscribe to the newsletter, and do get in touch if actually you're really interested in getting involved and taking on the Daring Mindset program. So have an excellent week, and I will see you all next week.